Hi, and welcome to today's podcast. This is podcast number 2, and today we are joined by Zach Vinski of Phoenix Contact. He is an industrial sales engineer for them. Phoenix, as many of you know, is actually sold through Schultz Automation, so thanks to Schultz for getting us in contact with Zach. And Zach drops by. We go over just items that they have that free up real estate within control boxes. So yeah, we're excited to share this technology with you, and thanks for tuning in.
So thanks for having me on, Mario. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you very much. So I know we're here to talk a little bit about Phoenix, and appreciate PanelBoy for hosting this. Yeah, I think this is number 2 for you guys. Yeah. So I don't know if there's things in particular. Obviously, I brought a little demo board for you. You told me that one of the main things you wanted to cover was the electronic circuit breakers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And the reason why it just makes so much sense to use one of these. I just seen recently when my customers had a whole bunch of multiple circuit breakers. They take up so much space and all that wiring you got to do.
Yeah.
It's like it makes so much sense just to put a positive negative on there and just.
It's kind of like a smart distribution module. If you really think of it that way.
Mm-hmm.
I was taught going through my apprenticeship that it's a good idea to break out your control panel circuits. That way, when one circuit trips, it doesn't throw the whole, the power supply, which brings down the whole panel.
Mm-hmm.
That becomes a diagnostic nightmare, realistically. Are you seeing a lot of circuit breakers in your time in the field on the control side? No.
That's what I wanted to bring you on to show other people out there.
Well,
out there,
I'm happy to share some information, and the goal of this demo is to make it hands-on so you can play with it and we can kind of just walk through some of the features. There's really 3 different product highlights on here. Our CBM circuit breaker module, the smaller one right here to the left of it, circuit breaker, I guess it'd be to your right, circuit breaker module compact, and then to the far right here, I kind of already showed you a little bit earlier, sneak peek, our PTCB, push termination circuit breaker. So each one of these is an individual channel, so you can kind of build it to how many different channels you wanna protect.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess we can jump right in and I'll show you the walkthrough here.
Yes.
So kind of starting off, this is a 4-channel version. There is an 8-channel version of this as well. Each one of these circuits is individually set using a screwdriver. You just adjust the potentiometer. So each one of these is adjustable between 0.5 amp, 1 amp, 2, 4, 6, or 10. And so I can show you some of the cooler features of this guy. There's a couple things to note right on the back. There's a DC OK to let you know your input voltage is good. So I've got this wired up right now to where we've got a load coming off the first channel. And then down here, this is where the status and all the important information back to your PLC would typically go.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got a dry contact for letting me know if something is true.
Mm-hmm.
This could be tied back to a PLC. So I've got to feed this 24 volts, and then I've got my diagnostic wire.
Yep.
In this case, it's not going to a PLC since I didn't have room on this board for one. Instead, I tied this right back to a little LED indication. Really what it is a blow fuse indicator, but I don't have a fuse in there, just for demonstration purposes. And then I've got a reset. So I'll show you how you can either remotely reset this or reset it locally as well. So first things first, I'm gonna let you drive. I'll kind of explain what to do here.
Yep.
So I've got this load set to really a terminal block with a knife disconnect on it, so you can easily trip it. So I'm gonna let you see that knife disconnect. You can close that with the screwdriver. We'll try not to shock ourselves. There you go. So you'll see that light went out, and you got low, so that'd be kind of your remote indication that something's wrong. That light's going to go out if any one of these 4 channels has been tripped. Likewise, you'll see on the circuit breaker module itself, so I open up the panel, I see that circuit number 1 is tripped. There's easy indication right there that, okay, that's where my problem is. I can diagnose that circuit, see where the short circuit is or where the overload might be coming from. I can reset it by pressing this button. You'll notice it didn't reset. That's because we still have the short circuit enabled. So if you want to open that knife disconnect up, there you go. So I can reset it now by pressing that button, or there's actually a little push button now wired up here. And what that does is apply 24 volts to the reset input.
Okay.
It doesn't, if I press and hold, it's not going to reset it. I have to let go of it. So if you send it from a pulse from a PLC, maybe you got that tied back to, in a lot of cases, would be tied to like an HMI button. I press it sends a pulse because it looks for that falling edge signal.
Yep.
I think my soldering is bad. Yeah, the connection just broke, so I'll press it that way. So I think you can see my solder just snapped right there.
Yep.
So anyways, so that's kind of the two ways to reset that. What we'll switch our focus to is the one I don't have wired up is, I is greater than 80%.
Yep.
So if I want to, take this a step further and have a little bit more information coming out of this thing, I can. This I greater than 80% will let me know if a load on any one of those circuits is greater than 80% of the nominal current. Typically, it's best practice to size your circuits to where you're not if it's going to be set to 1 amp, you're not pulling 1 amp continuously. What the reason for that is nuisance tripping. It's always a bad day when a line shuts down because you're just kind of towing the line and you're causing shutdowns, which costs our end users a lot of money. So that's kind of the purpose of that. So we'll switch a couple of wires here and move down to the circuit breaker module compact. And as I kind of go down this line, keep in mind that Phoenix Contacts has gone from this was really the first iteration of our electronic circuit breakers meant for 24 volt DC applications. This was number 2, and then the PTCB was number 3. So they've made some changes here that I'll know kind of along the way, so you can recognize really why some things have changed. So let's see your signal. This will be your reset input. So you'll notice first and foremost, this is smaller. You and I have kind of before this all got started talked about trying to put more and more stuff in a 5-pound box, right?
Yep.
I mean, or we're trying to put 5 pounds of stuff in a 1-pound box is the way where things are going. The control cabinet space is extremely valuable. So got a little bit smaller now. Still got 4 channels on this one. There's a couple different things here. This one's got a set and a reset, just like our signal and a reset input, just like this bigger one. There's actually an IO Link version of that available as well. Yeah, so we're seeing IO Link a lot. There's a lot of advantages. There's a lot of information that can be pulled from IO Link.
So IO Link electronic circuit breaker?
Yep. Only difference between that and this, there's no set reset. Instead, it'll just be your 3 IO Link termination points right there on the front of it.
Okay. Now, is that a terminal or is it like an M12 connector?
It's just a terminal, just like this. So you hardwire it into it.
Yep.
And the way that'd be typically wired. So Phoenix did come out with kind of a standalone Ethernet IP and ProPNet master module that would be wired back to your control scheme, or that's just done through Ethernet, so you can pull your tags that way back to your controller. Or if you use our remote I/O, we've got add-on modules that go right into our ProPNet and Ethernet IP head stations that it would again speak Ethernet back to your main controller.
Yeah.
So it would be just hardwired. We got several components that are IO Link that are meant to be IP20 inside the main control panel. That's why we came out with that standalone solution. So, the diagnostic information you get out of IO Link is going to be a lot more than just your signal and reset. You can get information like, what is this channel saying? What's the current draw on it? What's if I want to reset that using my HMI or stuff that you've already preset up, you can do it that way. For whatever reason, something goes bad. One of the biggest advantages of IO Link is I drop in another IO Link solution, and it pulls from the master the configuration information, and you're up and running again. So pretty cool stuff. Are you seeing a lot of IO Link right now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I like the link.
What IO-Link devices are you seeing out in the field?
The ones I see out there a lot are the Valve ones.
Valve? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, they've got a pretty great offering.
Yeah.
We are stepping up. And I think a lot of different manufacturers are going to continue to release more and more. I mean, there's in automotive world, it's starting to really take precedence. So it's cool stuff. I mean, it's going to make our lives and industries that much closer to IoT, right? So to proceed with the demo here. You see 4 LED indicators for each channel. Again, the four first termination points are going to be your protected circuits. I'm effectively turning them off just by pressing the button here. And one of the things that we did when we redesigned the circuit breaker module was make it a little bit harder for someone to walk up and actively kind of mess with the settings on it.
Yep.
That's because maybe you're having trips for maybe there's something you need to fix in your machine. You don't want someone going up there cranking up the actual load that this thing is set to. That could be a bad thing. That might make a motor blow.
Yep.
You don't want that. That's expensive. So instead of doing that, the way to set this, you press and hold, and if you want to do it, I can let you take over.
Yeah.
So you can do it with your finger. You can do it with a screwdriver. You press and hold, and you'll notice it starts to blink. So you'll see the amount of times that it blinks consecutively before pause is what it's set to.
Okay.
Currently, we got 1, 2, 3, pause. So it's set to 3 amps.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
To lock it in, you just press and hold. There you go. Went green. Now it's going to be set to 3 amps. So now that this load here is set to 3 amps, we can again trip it by pressing that knife disconnect closed. You'll notice that right away that light went out, indicating that both locally, because it turned red, had it stripped, and also remotely, it's stripped as well. And again, typically that's tied to something like a PLC, some type of alarm bit that lets you know something's not right. So to trip it or to reset it, I can either press the reset button or turn it on locally.
Yeah.
And notice it didn't turn because it's still
shorted.
Exactly. So once it starts blinking is when you can reset it. Good to go. Another thing I should point out on both of these modules is the kind of jumper locations. There's going to be 2 negative terminals and 2 positive terminals. So I can jump them together if I've got more than 4 or more than 8, like these are capable of. So I think pretty well thought out.
Yeah.
To be honest. Any questions so far?
Yeah. Could I trip that again?
Yeah.
If I do something, if I trip it, so if I clear it, I'm just trying to see if the filter's still short or not. Yeah, I was just checking to see if it will detect that the short filter.
Like staying red or something like that?
Yeah.
The only way I think that you can be able to recognize that is if you do try to reset it like I did that first time and it just stays tripped.
Yeah.
One of the things I did forget to mention on this main circuit breaker module here, you'll see that green DC OK LED. One of the cool features about this is actually if there is an under voltage, that will actually turn red on you. If there's a over voltage, and I might be mixed up on that, it might turn yellow. And if there's I think that's what it is. If it's an under voltage, it turns yellow. If it's an over voltage to this device, it turns red.
Okay.
And there's a threshold there. I think it's like 18 to 30 volts. And if it's below that, when it turns on, you kind of get some diagnostic information like, hey, maybe it's not the circuits that it's protecting. Maybe it's what's the incoming power.
Yep.
So more diagnostic features are really kind of the purpose of these devices, right? Diagnostic information and protection. So kind of stepping forward to really the latest and greatest in 24 volt DC protection technology from being in contact. It's going to be our PTCBs. The single channel versions, we kind of already showed you a little bit. I'll show the kind of the camera what we're working with here. couple things going on top that I want to point out. I've got my positive 24, my neutral going directly into this device.
Yep.
These top two red terminals for your power in and B. Really, these top four, or top two on each device, is going to be neutral. So I've got the ability to put one neutral wire in and jumper across using our traditional bridging technology.
Yep.
Then in the channel here, that's where I've got my plus 24 jumper to the other ones.
Mhm.
And you'll notice that this is right in line with our traditional PT terminal blocks.
Ooh, look at that.
So yeah, so Phoenix thought, this is a pretty well thought out product, and it's meant to, maybe I've got a larger gauge wire that I'm working with that doesn't fit in there, and I can jumper from a larger gauge terminal block to that.
Yeah.
Likewise, if I want to protect circuits,
Yep.
larger gauge, I can actually put protected circuit or terminal blocks right there and jumper, because that 2.2 that you see right there, that's going to be tied to the protected circuit.
Mhm.
So likewise, this bottom terminal here is going to be a protected circuit, and then you got a couple different things going on here too. So I mentioned NEC class 2 before we started the show here.
Uh-huh.
The one on the left here is going to be NEC class 2, so that's a current limiting under 100 watts. And actually, to kind of demonstrate that, this power supply does have some control information, or not control information, but parameters I can mess with just by pressing this. And when I get to over 27 volts, this will shut down. That's because it wants it to be under 100 watts. And you'll notice this LED go red here soon. A second. I think I'm pressing the button. I'll just.
So right now you're increasing then?
Yeah. And we're gonna do this the right way. Okay. Up to it. What's it set to? So just like the other ones, if I want to set this, I can press and hold. And after I press and hold for a few seconds, it'll let me reset it. And you'll see right now that it sets at 29.5 volts. So it might not be letting me reset it because you'll see I'm holding this button down now. So I can drop the voltage real quick. I'm going to drop it to 24 volts. And now I'm going to reset it. Huh. So I press and hold. That one's set to 2 or 3, it looks like. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to change it to 1. So I just pressed it the one time. And it looks like, yeah, it's set to 1 amp. Press and hold. Set this one down too. We did it right earlier, didn't we?
Yeah.
Huh. I'm gonna reset this. Might be part of it, we cut it out.
Yeah.
There we go. So it's at the 1 amp. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna put this back in. We are still set to 24 volts. What I was trying to show, as I increase the voltage on this, you should see that light go bad or go off. That's just due to the fact that when I do try and go above that 100 watts, it does kick in and limit it.
Yeah.
2, 3, 4. So setting it to 4 amps, 100 watts is going to be at 24 volts, just about 5 amps. So 25 volts, it'd be 4 amps. So as I go above that, you'll start to see an issue probably close to 27 volts. There you go. So you see it went bad.
Yep.
It's sitting at 27.5 volts.
Wow.
And that's because it's crossing that, whatever I forget the exact requirement from NEC class 2, but because it's above that 100 watt threshold, it turns off. And that's built, kind of baked into the circuit internal technology with the PTCB. So, and like these other devices here, this one's got a status input, so I can actually tell if this is tripped, and then I can also remotely reset it as well. So there's kind of a lot of cool technology baked into this 6.2 millimeter housing. That is a actual 24 volt DC circuit breaker. Any questions there?
Yeah, so I know that this bridge jumper, you can connect the terminals.
Yeah.
So say if I put a whole bunch of terminals here and put the jumper to them. So when I set this at 4 amps, will everything in this bank of terminals be also?
So yeah, no, that'd be protected to 4 amps. So I can put a couple of devices out there. I could have a PLC. I could have a couple of Ethernet switches off that. And they all run. But as soon as you get to 4 amps, you're going to start to see issues.
Yep.
Meaning it'll trip that thing. And the real advantage is there. Maybe you've got a whole bunch of different devices there, and it's working fine, but one day you have a problem and it trips. So that means that something on that bank of terminal blocks that's restricted to that 4 amps is going bad.
Yeah.
You typically know what the nominal voltage of your system is. So once that kind of creeps past that, there's something, maybe it's an Ethernet switch, maybe it's a drive, maybe something, a field device that's connected and powered by that.
Yeah.
That's where you get the important information from.
That's pretty cool. I like that.
Yeah. Anything else particular to the circuit breakers?
What were these 3 terminals for?
So on the right side, the bottom one here is going to be your protected one. And the 1314 contact, that's really just a normally open relay built into it. On the left one, because these are 2 different versions, left is the status input reset, the right's going to be the normally open. Status input, so on the top terminal of 4, it's going to be your status input. So if I can see that screwdriver real quick, I'm going to rewire this. Let's see. To number 4. I'm going to also move the load wire to this. So if I trip this, you're going to see this light indication turn on. So really what this is doing is just giving you, the user, a little bit more information on what's going on remotely, right? So I trip this, you see this light, so that went out.
Yep.
So this would be in your control panel, so I've got local information. But out of the field, this would typically be run to PLC, which you can then display information on HMI. So I've got remote information via this status light with what's going on.
Yeah.
So, and then number 6 here, or number 5. I'm sorry, it's bad. That's where you can actually tie that back to the PLC command to reset it remotely. Yep. Put this back up. Good questions. So reset, do it locally, or I can send it a pulse at 24 volts.
That's pretty cool.
Keep them coming.
Yeah, what's this thing for?
This is actually one of our fuse terminal box holders. So you typically put a 5x20 fuse in there. I don't know if the camera can see that. And it's got just an LED indicator. I'm using it just on this demo as a indicator light. So we have the fuse terminal blocks that have the swing up open. I actually like the ones that you can pull all the way out. Like that way, if you're working at a panel, not always the easiest thing to get to one of those terminal blocks and swing the door open and kind of be working in the panel like that. Being able to just pull that tab out and completely remove it, makes working on it just like you're looking at it a little bit easier. Don't you think?
That's pretty cool.
And then, so you'll notice it looks just like this other one where this one's got a nice disconnect built into it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's other accessories like this one right here. This is just a push button.
Okay.
There's actually a little component for. Typically, you can put like a diode or something like that. I soldered a push button to it.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty bad solder, it's broke, but.
Yeah.
And I think I got that push button from a Arduino kit I had in college.
Okay.
So, yeah, yeah. It meant more for a breadboard, kind of just a test application as opposed to something where people are going to be pressing it. So.
Pretty neat.
Yeah, so I know one of your other questions had to do with the Quint power supplies and really kind of resolved around this NFC, right?
Yeah.
So now you can see my screen. It's called a Quint Power software. It's the software that you use. You can download it on your computer. There's actually an app for a smartphone, but you got to use a Android smartphone to do it, which I believe you've done before.
Yeah.
So the reason why that iPhone locks out their NFC for things like Apple Pay.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So we got this handy little dongle here from Phoenix, and I can read it. Click the read button. I'll hold it this right on the front of it. I'm going to read in the information of this power supply. Should take just a second here. So there you go. So you can see on the screen now it's popped up. Sorry, you can't really see it. When I'm working with Mario, I'm flipping around. So you can see the power supply information. You know, what is it? If I like Quint, you got the order number there. You can see how long it was running for. Just 30 minutes. Total operating time, 408 hours. So you get some information there. But I can start getting into this and actually changing some things. So if I want to change the output voltage, and that's what I dropped this so we can test it. I'm going to turn this on. We're going to look at just the voltage. So I don't really have any loads attached to this. So reading that, currently at 26. I'm going to lock this into 24 volts. And then I'm going to get to it. So first thing, kind of hold that on there, and you'll see power supply is being searched. It is now read in. It won't be applied until we restart the power supply. So I'm going to do that now. So it should drop to 0. Right? So turn this back on. We should see about 24 volts. So that's what we just wrote in. And we're just about there. So I don't know if the screen can see that.
Yeah, it's picking up on here.
Good deal. So that's the first change I made. We can change it again just for fun. We'll do 29. And the reason I'm doing this is just to kind of show you real quick that, you know, it's pretty easy to use actually once you get the hang of it.
Yeah.
Some people might be worried about things like security. I can actually go into this and put a security password on it. So not anyone with NFC capability or an app on their phone can walk up to it and start changing things. It wouldn't be good.
Yeah.
I can actually even lock out these buttons here. So
Oh, really?
there's buttons on here that changes it up and down.
Mm-hmm.
And again, since I just reset the power supply, it has now read in the fact that I set it to 29. You get a bit of a voltage difference, but so I can adjust that by pressing these buttons right now.
Mm-hmm.
You'll see it starts to drop as I help that. If I want to lock it out, I can. So that's one of the things I like to know about the NFC. There's a lot more functionality built into it. So the security is a big thing, especially nowadays. I mean,
Yeah.
you're talking about OSHA and safety requirements.
Mm-hmm.
We got to protect people, and that's the purpose.
Yeah. Yeah. I did maintenance before, so I know all
Oh, yeah.
about it.
Yeah, I mean, you got to know what you're working with. And
Yeah.
if someone gets in there and changes something, and maybe it's one of your guys that you work with, and you don't know about it, it could cause a potentially hazardous situation. So
Yeah.
I mean, maybe you've been there. I don't know if you got any stories to say. Tell
Oh,
about
yeah,
that.
definitely. So when I did maintenance before, our job was to keep production running, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you got an operator standing around, and say if a circuit breaker went down, you know, people will be like, oh, maybe it's a bad circuit breaker, just put a bigger one in there, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Fix the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly why I mentioned earlier, you know, as we've kind of gone down the line, you don't want to necessarily, if someone doesn't know what they're doing, give them the ability to crank it up without checking other things.
Yeah.
I mean, you've probably seen it firsthand.
Yeah, that's the job, to get the machine up and running as soon as possible. you
Yeah,
know?
yeah. I mean, time is money in a lot of those
Yep.
cases, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you got a great background for this.
Mhm.
So I'll kind of show you if you can see the signaling screen. Can you see the screen here?
Mhm.
So Mario, really some of the cool things about this power supply, the really power behind it, and the Quint name. I mentioned it's kind of the Cadillac. You've got a lot of different termination points here in the front of it. So I can configure these through NFC what I want them to do.
Mhm.
So I mentioned to you, output 1 is really just a digital output.
Yep.
So I can choose from a number of different things. If my output voltage exceeds a certain percentage
Mhm.
of what I have it set to nominally,
Yeah.
it's going to give me an issue. It's going to give me a light saying, hey, something's wrong. Same thing with, you know, if the temperature is not okay, or if your, you know, overvoltage protection is kicked in, means you got some type of transient event or a surge event,
Mhm.
it'll let you know. Output 2 is probably the most popular one though.
Okay.
And the reason I say that is because, just kind of going back to that analogy about getting your vitals checked, that's where kind of no power is. So I can click output 2, change it to analog,
Yep.
and I can choose between voltage, current, power, and say, you know, give me a 4 to 20 signal based on the voltage of this.
Mhm.
So if I want to do that, click output voltage, and at 4 milliamps, you're going to get a 0 volt reading.
Mhm.
At 30, sorry, at 30 volts, you're going to get a 20 milliamps. So
Oh, is that the scale then?
yeah, so we can do this, and I'll demonstrate this right now actually because it's a pretty cool feature.
Yeah, it is.
I'm going to write that in, and again, once it writes in, I'll wait for the green. Okay, I gotta reset this.
Mhm.
So now I should be getting a 0 to 20, or yeah. And to do that, I'm going to grab an extra wire. So what I was showing you here was for the signaling aspect, we do have a ton of different versatility here as far as what you want to show off. So it's the making an output to an analog to actively monitor your output voltage, your output current or output power. You can do that.
Yeah.
For the relay contact, I briefly mentioned that earlier. You can have that trigger on multiple different things. So if temperature, input voltage, output voltage, a whole bunch of different stuff crosses whatever threshold you set, you can do here in the software. You know, and then you can go ahead and so your this output amperage is gonna be 5 amps. So if you wanted to latch that at 2.5 amps, you say 50% here.
Mhm.
I guess this is technically a 6.25 amp power supply.
Yeah.
So depending on what you set here is where you get this thing to latch.
Mhm.
So that's kind of some of the versatility of this. And
So once it goes over that, it'll turn on alarm then?
yeah. So it will, or I guess the way I have it right here is if it's less than that much amperage, then that's when it sends an alarm. So you put your positive to the 13, and your 14 would go to your signal.
Okay.
Just kind of like we wired up on this one.
Mhm.
So, and then as far as reading it in and writing it in, I mean, it's pretty simple with this NFC device that you saw.
Yeah.
Are there any questions there?
So can I do the exact same stuff with my Android phone then?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think this is actually maybe an older version of the software. There's one other thing I didn't point out was the characteristic curve. So I can actually change how this thing fails. So if it tries to get overpowered, then you can actually change the way in which this will either fold back on itself
Mhm.
or try and you can actually like put it in a fuse mode, for instance, a hiccup mode, and what that does is change how it delivers power in those high load situations. So
Wow, a lot of functionality.
there's a ton.
Let's see if I can open that app. Oh, the automatic.
So you pulling up the app right there?
Yeah. I think so.
I saw something. I saw Phoenix on your phone.
Oh, yeah, yeah. That's pretty cool. So I only have to open the app just because it's a smart Android phone.
That is pretty cool. I don't have the pleasure of knowing that. I get to work with my iPhone here, so I was never an iPhone guy until I started working for Phoenix. That's the way our company's set up. So, any other questions there on the quick power supply? I don't know if you're familiar with the other lines of power supplies we have. We typically, I guess, present them as good, better, best on the basis of functionality. Obviously, this thing's got a ton of different features baked into it. We got a trio. All that's really going to have is a one power boost option. It's got a dynamic boost, so current hungry loads. If you're starting up like a motor, you don't want to size out a larger power supply just for this one instance when you're maybe startup. This has got that as well. Then we got the Uno series, which is basically no frills, no whistles, no bells type of power supply. 120 volt in, 24 volt out. I mean, there's 5 volt and 12 volt options as well. But the trio and queen are going to be 3-phase options as well. We just came out with a 40 amp version of this too. That's I think a little bit less than 5 inches wide. So.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty compact.
It is.
Very powerful. Pretty good price on it too. So.
The last.
Yeah.
Yeah, they take a lot of space.
Oh yeah, that's one of the. Again, kind of go along with the theme here. Phoenix Contact is definitely addressing the need to fit 5 pounds of stuff in a 1 pound box. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I can pretty much do the same stuff you're seeing there.
Yeah. And you've used that before on site before, right?
Yeah, I was in the panel and I saw that down there, and I followed you.
Yeah.
And I downloaded the app and see what you can do with it.
Yeah.
And, I was messing with the voltage. And I put my meter on there. Yeah, it's working.
It's pretty cool. And
yeah, I thought that was pretty cool.
The one thing that trips people up is the fact that you got to reset it for the parameters that you updated to take precedent. But once you know that, I mean,
yeah, that's common over here.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So the other things I did bring some other things to show you if you don't have any other questions on this.
Do you know what's a sleep mode?
Sleep mode? I'll show you. So in natural configuration, there is the ability to put the thing in sleep mode. And it's basically just a remote shutdown of this device. So I'm just going to take this jumper wire. And to do that, you can have a relay contact between the remote terminal and the signal ground. So if I jumper these two together, you'll notice everything shut off. So I just put it in sleep mode. It's kind of like a remote shutdown feature without switching the incoming power. So the 24 volt DC controlled, or I guess 120 volt if you got a relay in there.
Yeah.
But basically, you just bridge those two together. You put it in sleep mode, and it's kind of like a safe shutdown for operation and maintenance purposes. Pretty cool.
Now, when would someone use a sleep mode?
I've seen it in a couple different applications. Really, the biggest one is if I need to get in the panel or work on a circuit and I don't want to worry about someone getting shocked. Sometimes it's through a toggle switch, like an actual key switch that maintenance person might have on their key ring. That's probably the most common, where they actually tie that kind of latching circuit to one of the key switches you have on the outside of a door. That's probably the most common I've seen.
Yeah.
And I've worked with a couple customers that it is a requirement. They've got a power supply that has that feature into it. Not super powerful.
Yeah.
That's a good question. That's something that kind of gets overlooked frequently.
Yeah, I didn't even know there was a function. That's pretty neat.
Yeah.
What type of connections do you have here? Are they all screw all the time?
These are through. We just came out with DC to DC converters. I don't know if you're familiar with that. It's where it's kind of think of it as a step down transformer for maybe 48 volt DC to 24 or vice versa. Or maybe you've got one device that for some reason operates off a 12 volt DC.
Yep.
You can step down from 24 to 12. We released some of those that recently have push-in terminals on them.
Okay.
And you'll notice there is push-in terminals on the front there. So we are slowly integrating the push-in technology to, maybe not even say slowly. We're doing it in a lot of places, but push-in across the board. I mean, you see it on all of these circuit breakers. We got surge protection devices that have push-in technology. And it's just, trying to make things more efficient. In Europe, being a German company, a lot of standard there is to use ferrules. And it's pretty much
that's our standard here.
Yeah. So and I know you use push-in termination too. It's a match made in heaven, right? Being able to just stick a wire in there and immediately connect without having to pick up the screwdriver makes all the difference.
Yeah, it does.
So, kind of going along with that thing, I want to hand that to you. That is the kind of tried and true Ethernet switch from Phoenix Contact.
Yeah. You know any of these I wired up and all that?
Yeah. I had way too many.
Yeah.
So that's the SFN series of Ethernet switch. It's just an 8-port switch, nothing really fancy about it. A lot of times, I don't know if you've heard this term, unmanned Ethernet switches can be called the wire nut of industrial Ethernet. Wire in, wire out, simple, no programming, no configuration, no nothing. Just wire it up and you're good to go. So Phoenix Contact is actually the leader in industrial market space of Ethernet switches. I don't know if you knew that.
No.
Something I recently learned actually. And we're trying to build on that. So during this time, Phoenix is still releasing products, and it's been pretty interesting couple of months out. And kind of one of the bigger, more popular ones right now is our new series of unmanaged Ethernet switch. You can see right off the bat, there's a pretty big difference there.
Yeah, there's.
I believe this sits at 50 millimeters wide. This one at 22 and a half, and I mean that's the same port count. This push-in termination made its way onto this new version.
Yeah.
Here's something that's cool with this. So we do try and put a lot of time and effort into the design of our products. And one of the cool things that my team did when they were designing this is they've included this sideways DIN mount adapter. So I can so now I'm able to mount this sideways on a DIN rail. That's important for panels where you don't have a whole lot of space. Now, this isn't really a very big device to begin with, but in those spaces where you don't have room for Ethernet cables to come up and around, I can mount the sideways now, and I still got the LED indications on the side of this to let me know things are talking, right? It's just a common Ethernet communication where on the front here, you have LEDs underneath the switches to the side of them, let you know stuff is talking. But it's kind of a brand new product for Phoenix Contact.
Yeah, I like that. You can use this on a door if you don't have to height from the panel.
Exactly. And you take that screw right there, you loosen that, you can actually rotate that 360 degrees in increments of 90 degrees. So I can mount that sideways and to the right, sideways to the top, sideways to the bottom.
Yeah. So when you get this Ethernet switch, does this come with it?
That's just an accessory.
Okay.
So it's not that expensive for what it is too. You can see it's pretty robust accessory at that. So
yeah.
And to get it out, you gotta release the orange lever at the bottom. But pretty nifty little device. And then we've got the 16 port as well. And I can show you if you want. There you go. So that's going to be that works with the 5-port and the 8-port. 5-port's just a bit smaller than that one. Not narrower, just this tall. And then we've got a separate one for the 8-port because it's a 40 millimeter wide out.
Yeah, I like that accessory. Yeah, I'm constantly just playing with all kinds of different things. And I'm like, like say that wireless thing, I'm like, man, I would like to mount this to a piece of din rail, but I can't.
Yeah, let's look at how you would mount that.
Yeah.
Phoenix does do housings and stuff too. So if you
Yeah.
run into an application and you're looking for something,
Mhm.
you can let me know. I might be able to come up with something for you.
Yeah.
And if I can't, I know someone who would be able to. So
Yeah.
just like I was telling Danny, I like to tell people I'm kind of the springboard for information when it comes to anything Phoenix contact here in West Michigan. I'm not ever going to claim to know everything, but I got resources and people that I'm happy to help.
Yeah.
And that thing that sits at 40 millimeters wide, so that's less than the width of this traditional 8-foot that we have. So
Yeah.
it's definitely getting some attention. It's been extremely popular, both the 5, 8, and 16.
Mhm.
We're coming out with more here in the future with actual fiber connectivity. I don't know if you're doing a lot of Ethernet switches to fiber these days or not. No, I'm seeing a little bit more for people that want to future-proof, and especially for vision applications where speed is extremely important.
Yep.
If you're taking a picture of a part that's going down a conveyor, high speed, gigabit speeds is necessary.
Yeah. Let's do gigabits.
We do have a gigabit version in 5 and 8. 16 is coming soon.
Okay.
These ones right here, they're both just 10 and 100 megabits.
Yeah, just recently I was working with a customer, and it was a vision application where they had just a regular Ethernet switch, but then they had bumped it up to a gigabyte switch.
Really?
Yeah, so much data.
Yeah, it being vision, that doesn't surprise me. Extremely important. I mean, that's a lot. Those data packets get extremely they get bogged down in it really fast.
Yeah.
So you want to have something that if you put an unmanned switch in there that's only capable of 100 megabits per second, it's gonna be the bottleneck of the entire network.
Yeah, really.
Not a good thing. Let's see what else I got for you. So there is one other feature I didn't really mention on those new switches. Something we included in these that you typically would not find in an unmanaged switch. And that's actually data packet prioritization. You're getting that 3 times fast. So what I mean by that is this switch and this switch, all these new, there are 1000 series switch product line. They'll recognize traffic on your network. So if I've got information that is specific to Ethernet IP protocol, then this will, for instance, recognize that and prioritize that over, other background noise, other network noise. Whereas that's not a feature you typically find in any other off-the-shelf unmanaged switch. Typically something that you'd have to go to either a light managed switch or a managed switch altogether for.
Yeah.
So it's, especially in applications of vision, like we're talking, or you get a lot of drives talking, which can get kind of chatty, get really noisy on the network. Then, this is kind of one step closer to foolproofing your industrial network to making sure that you don't got unplanned issues.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really great information to know.
Yeah. I know there was other interest in things like panel feed through and stuff like that, right?
Yes.
I did bring some of that to show you. Throw that back. First one was from our cable listening system. The locking ladder. So we got 3 different sizes. This is the smallest. I think this is the one in particular, right? That you're looking for.
Yeah. You know how many of these I just put on?
A lot.
A lot.
Where?
It was out in Ionia for a customer.
Gotcha.
Yep, and it was the bigger ones where I had, I think, 5 or 6.
It'd be, I think, 6.
Yep. Yeah, they were so handy because there were so many different types of cables, different sizes, and it was so nice that my customer had all the different types of grommets, just so we can get a snug fit on that cable. Yeah, and
there's tons of different sizes. Yeah.
yeah, and what was nice with these, what we're doing out there is a lot of stuff we had wire into the panel. So instead of undoing something, instead of unwiring it, putting this on there and running it through again, when they built all these panels, they had the holes all cut out for this and all punched out, but they didn't have these in time, and because they're building the machine on the floor, they had to run all the cables through there.
So they had it through the panel without that
Yep.
actually set up. Okay, I got you.
Yep. Yeah, so then once we got these on, we could just go right over it.
Yeah, because it's a split grommet basically,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. With the other style, it's like you're gonna have to unwire everything, pull everything out, and put your cage clamp thing on there. Yeah, with this was
I've seen those get more and more popular. Yeah, are you seeing it kind of the standard now to go that way?
no, I just seen it recently with the customer I was working with. Yeah, but I like these because they split, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of times we gotta hurry up and get a machine running, but then you don't have all the parts in time. Where you could run all your cables through there, and once this gets there, pop it on.
Well, I'll make sure to send you a complete listing of what we got. I mean, it's
Yeah.
called our cable entry system.
Yep.
CES for short.
Yeah.
And like you mentioned already, there's tons of different types of those grommets depending on your size.
Yeah.
Size need you can do.
Mhm.
Some of them show that you got 2 and 1 grommet. Some of them got 3 or 4. So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I really like these. They're so handy out there.
the difference between this type of locking latch compared to the typical screw locking latch is going to be really your IP rating. So I think these ones are IP54 compared to like the IP67 and the screw locking.
Yep.
But in most instances in our applications that we typically work in, you know, IP54 is sufficient.
Yeah.
Now some people do like the foolproof and they want IP67 because it's the most robust, but not always necessary.
Yeah. Yeah, so I just played with these recently, a couple months ago out in the field.
But you can keep this little, it's actually a little sample pack. So
Oh, cool.
the order number on here, I will let you know it's not, it's just the order number for this, but there is some information on this card. And so you're probably thinking comparatively to something more like this, your traditional like heavy cone, where you probably would have to rewire everything, especially if you didn't have that. Do you see these very often?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
So that's another demo, and you'll notice that there's push-in technology into that one. One thing I want to point out with that housing that you have. So this is, you'll notice it's plastic housing.
Yep.
It's glass polymer reinforced, so it's heavy duty. It's actually forklift rated. But this is our Evo series. So you're working on a panel, and you plan perfectly, right? And you think, oh yeah, I got enough clearance for it to come straight out the bottom. Maybe that's not the case. I can actually rotate that and now it comes straight off.
Nice.
Now this is a demo, so you notice I was able to do that with my hands. Typically, when you lock these things on here, it's on there.
Yep.
You got to use channel locks to get it off.
Yeah, I haven't seen these ones yet.
Now, if you need a different cable size, what we call like the bayonets, Phoenix's term for it, they got different cable glands on them. So it also kind of helps reduce part count in that instance too. So
Yeah.
you can just keep a different style, different size of cable gland depending on your needs. And that doesn't really stop there either. We've got the fully configurable ones too. So maybe you don't need just a bunch of power contacts. Maybe you want an Ethernet connector in there as well.
Oh, really?
And then you can actually do air hoses and stuff like that through these connectors.
I think I didn't know you guys did that.
Yeah.
So if I wanted to do, say, a smaller cable, do I gotta change this piece out? or-
Just this piece, yeah.
Okay.
And it's not ordered as, we do actually have kits that would be ordered like all together where you get the base. Of course, you get the gasket down there. You get the gasket, the base, the hood, and the 2 inserts and the bayonet all in like one part
Okay.
number. Now you can build it to your application too, of course, where you get the kind of the base, the actual inserts, the hood and stuff separately.
Yeah.
So there's tons of flexibility there. Sometimes there's confusion there, kind of building up a bill of materials, but like I tell everybody, that's kind of where I come in.
Yep.
And then I've got a technical service team that does it all the time too. So here's one more option for cable entry. This is newer to Phoenix. Check that out.
Wow.
It's a little bit of a beast, right?
Yeah, it is.
It's called the multi-gate. Now, that'd be for something like running non-terminated cables through. So you do have to zip tie after you run the cable. So you run the cable through, zip tie it down, make sure you get that IP rating that you need.
Oh, really? Huh.
Yep.
You see that?
It's called a multi-gate, and that's honestly a great solution if you're looking for, low cost, functional through panel connections. The cost on those things is really where they shine, more or less. So.
Yeah. Interesting. So you just cut it off to your size cable, then?
Yeah. And just bring it right through. So.
Mm-hmm.
Do you ever see anything like that out there?
No.
No?
No, I've seen the one with the brushes. But there's no way to cinch a cable down to it.
Okay, so you don't necessarily probably don't get a good IP rating that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, like we got one on our panel over there.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Where you just ran it through.
Still works for many
For the
applications.
application works.
It'll probably still keep the dust out, right?
Yeah.
So, something to keep in mind, the multi-gate, it's somewhat of a newer product, I think maybe a year old or so, but you can see this is IP66/67, so.
Yep.
Pretty decent rating, I mean, not bad.
Yeah, really.
As far as other samplings and products go, I think that was pretty much all I brought today. I've got a little bit more in my case.
Mm-hmm.
I was happy to do this again with you.
Yeah.
I got tons of stuff. I mean, Phoenix.
Well, Phoenix,
Yeah.
getting goodies up there.
Why not? I'll pull one thing out. I don't know if you know. Maybe you could take a guess how many products Phoenix Contact has. Unique part numbers.
Quite a bit.
It's definitely over 5 figures. We're close to 80,000 products.
Yeah, I was surprised we got a catalog. This catalog was just for what was it? It was I couldn't believe how many different catalogs there were.
I think we have a catalog that we don't print out. Now we do a ton with these little connectors here. This part takes up 10,000 plus part numbers just in connectors like this, because we've got all different connection technologies, different flanges, a whole lot of different things. So, I'll just leave that there. So that makes up a lot of our part numbers, but we do have a lot of. So I mentioned the Una power supply earlier, right? So you can see low wattage, 120 volt in, 24 out. This one's really no bells and whistles on that thing. Low cost. So if you don't need a whole lot, great robust solution.
Yeah.
And again, you still pair that with the Phoenix Connect surge arrestor, and you get a lifetime warranty on it. So it's not like it's lower quality. It's not worse at all. It's just less functionality built into it.
Yeah. How many amps is that guy?
This one's 30 watts, so amp it a little over an amp.
30 watts. Okay.
So really on here is kind of the whole purpose of this demo was for another customer that wanted to connect to their machine remotely. Are you seeing much of that through VPNs?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Occasionally.
So mGuard, which is this product right here with the red on the front of it, that's going to be our kind of lead-in product for anything with remote connectivity. In most cases, most machines out there, maybe they have, someone in OT or IT gives them an Ethernet drop to connect it to the plant network. And this is really designed to sit between the machine network and the plant network. And you'd have this WAN port going to the drop that IT or OT provides you. And then your local network's really kind of what's managed on the machine side. So you got drives connected to it, your main PLC, other unmanaged Ethernet switches, anything else that is network capable. There's a lot of stuff out there, really. I'm sure you've seen it.
Yeah.
So a lot of people will go to this and need for a VPN, and that's, especially nowadays, right? We got a lot of people working from home. I'm working from home most of the time. I know you're still out on the road. That's where you guys come into play, but there's a lot of engineers now, and I'm seeing this that are. I give them a call and I can hear a dog in the background, or I can hear a kid, running around. It's the reality of today's world, and it's going to probably continue to be that way. Phoenix Contact is invested heavily in the security aspect of this device and the ability to have this sit on your machine and enable me from anywhere in the world through what we call our Secure Cloud to connect to that machine locally as if I was plugged into one of those ports.
Mm-hmm.
So I can see the PLC, I can log into the PLC, I can make changes, I can get onto the HMI because typically those are networked as well,
Yep.
and make changes there. I can diagnose a machine from Starbucks if I want to.
Yeah.
This isn't an advertisement for Starbucks either.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm legally required to say that. But I can do this from my bedroom. I can do this from my home office.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the main thing people think of MGuard for is the VPN. It's really kind of 3-in-1. It's a full-on router.
Mm-hmm.
So and manage switch. So I'm able to do some level of port management here. I can create VLANs. I can do firewalling as well. So in addition to being a router and a VPN, it's actually a full-on security appliance.
Yeah.
Which means I can create granular firewalls or, just block out whole IP addresses, which kind of wrapping back into the conversation of safety and security. I mean, with stuff being decentralized, and there's always the ever-present threat of, hackers. And,
Yeah.
I probably don't know enough about the subject to talk about it really that far in depth, but we both know that there's risk out there.
Yep.
I mean, we see it all the time. You hear about large companies getting their data breached, and you get those emails. I mean, I see it all the time. I'm sure you do too. And this is meant to protect your plant,
Really?
your machine. Yeah, it's got the firewall to where IT can go in and fully configure this. It's nothing really that different. Obviously, there's kind of that conversation that has to happen with IT. And one of those is, I don't want my machine builder to log into this machine after it's deployed.
Yep.
So what I have here is you can tie this to, you can tie one of these contacts up at the top here. There's kind of a lot going on the top. You got your power supply, and you got, what I have right here is just a kind of mimicking a key switch.
Yep.
So head of maintenance or IT has a key switch out there, and if they want to, initiate this thing to allow their machine builder to come in and diagnose something, they flip a switch that's tied back to a contact, applies 24 volt to this, and it's configurable through the web page. It's mostly web-based management for this. You can do it via CLI if you want to, but I can enable this to only initiate a VPN if I, the end user, wanted to. So cool. Kind of that's kind of like the most basic level of security to get, but also one of the most foolproof too, right?
Yep.
It's kind of approaching that air gap. So
Yeah, that's good to know. I'll let my customer know about this. So one of our customers that we build control panels for, these panels go into I forgot where they go in some type of factory where they don't want that panel tied into their network. So there was it was a switch that had a cellular card.
Oh, okay.
So they just go right to the phone system and tie into it.
That's where this one comes into play, right here. This white one.
Yep.
That's our TC Cloud client. So I kind of briefly mentioned the MGuard Secure Cloud. It's a solution from Phoenix Contact where we try to take the guesswork out of creating a VPN. I'm guessing you probably haven't done it before, but it's very complex. I did it once, and through my apprenticeship, I actually spent several months supporting the MGuard, so I know this product very well, and I'm personally invested in the product, right?
Yeah.
But what I'm getting at is the process of setting up a VPN, if you don't have some kind of assistance with it through shared certificates and keys, and it's a pretty involved process. So the MGuard Secure Cloud is a free to use it's a free to use service from Phoenix Contact where all you need is really a laptop. Now when you have a software piece that go on your laptop, it's a one-time purchase, and then you've got an MGuard out in the field. And as long as you basically go online to the us.mguard.cloud.com, create I get on my computer, I create a file, I drop it into this, and you can do it in a couple minutes. It's pretty easy, and it creates the VPN, all the VPN connection and tunneling that you need to do to be able to connect to this remotely. So we created that to take the guesswork out of doing all the certificate sharing and keys and handshaking that is required in VPN setup, and bake that into that software and that service that we offer. This device here is solely a cellular version of this, meant specifically for connecting to the secure cloud. We've got options that, would do the VPN and full-on security if you want that.
Yeah.
And but this one's more or less just for remote VPN connection, like you mentioned.
Yep.
And a lot of times it's offered because, there's definitely still some, what's the word? A little bit of hesitancy from IT to say, yeah, connect that thing to my plant network, and we'll let someone tunnel that. It is secure. We've proven it. We've got white papers on it, but it's not a fun conversation. And talking about eliminating and mitigating risk, that's one of the options. Doing it silently.
Yeah, I didn't know you guys did that. Definitely mention it to them. Maybe here in a couple weeks we're gonna.
We have options, and I mentioned to you PLC Next.
Yep.
It's an open PLC that Phoenix Contact recently released. It was back in October 2019 is when we formally released it in the United States. It's been in development stages for a while, and you can still say that there's new stuff coming out all the time. It's going to be that way. It's an open platform PLC. Later this year, maybe early next year, the PLC itself is going to have the ability to connect to our secure clouds without the need of them.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so it's going to have that kind of same, and with security kind of being at our roots at Phoenix, it's going to have a lot of the same firewall features and stuff too. So there's going to be options there. It's cool. It's I don't know if you want to say groundbreaking stuff, but it's definitely very, very important. We're addressing that need for security and remote connectivity, especially in today's climate. I mean, it's every day. Every time I pick up the phone, it seems like I talk to someone new that's now working from home.
RS-232.
Yep, it does have zero connected at the bottom of it.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. I'm glad you brought that over.
Yeah, I think you actually asked about that a while back, way back when.
Okay.
The last thing on here that I haven't pointed out to you is really these new terminal blocks on the right side. Our vertical push-in technology. Typically, push-in has been from the top only. I don't know if the camera can see this, but it's called a PTB series. And the reason it's called PTB is when it's mounted on the rail, wire entry is now vertical instead of where it kind of up and over the top. And it's kind of like bridging the gap between push-in and the traditional way through wire. So, but that's I think that's the rest of the goodies I've got for you. So any other questions on that? A lot of good questions today.
No. No, thanks. Appreciate you coming out here.
Yeah, Mario, I really appreciate you having me.
Yeah.
It's the first time I've been on the podcast before, so.
Yeah. Second time for me.
I think it's a good idea to, try to look at new ways to engage with people, and we're all hungry for that human interaction. I think most people are.
Yeah, and we have tons of customers here in Western Michigan, and a lot of them aren't using this latest technology, and that's why I'm glad you came in, so I can in a situation where I see I can help you guys out and connect you to. Yeah, I
appreciate it. I'll continue to support you however I can too.
Yeah,
we're always coming out with new stuff. I'm happy to do this again someday. We just actually released a new product today. The kind of new version of the M Guard. It was just our new product flash this morning when I woke up. So it's going to be kind of the next generation of M Guard. So yeah. Always coming out with new stuff. It's exciting.
Yeah.
So thanks again for having me. Appreciate it.